When you tell your friends where you are heading, including some of the most intriguing facts about Malta that you can think of, compiled by AWZ. The adage "good things come in little packages" certainly applies to Malta. You will be astounded by how much culture, history, and beautiful things to see and do can be jammed into 2.5 Mediterranean islands if you are planning your vacation to Malta in 2023. Fortunately for you, AWZ has compiled some of the most fascinating Malta-related facts you could possibly conceive, so you can impress your friends with fascinating information when you tell them where you're heading. Inhabitants have lived in Malta from around 5900 BC. Malta is the fourth most densely inhabited sovereign country in the world and the 10th smallest country by area, with a population of around 516,000 spread across a territory of 316 square kilometers, 122 square miles. Valletta, its capital, is the smallest national capital in the EU in terms of both population and area. 480,134 people were living in the functional urban area and metropolitan region in 2020, according to data from Eurostat, and according to the UN, ESPON, and EU Commission, the entire territory of Malta constitutes a single urban region. Malta is frequently mentioned as a city-state and is included in lists of cities or metropolitan areas, 29. Along with Cyprus, Malta is one of the two island nations in the Mediterranean. Despite being primarily Muslim while under Arab rule, when Christians were tolerated, Malta has had Christians from the early Christian era. Following Roger I's Norman conquest of Malta in 1091, the Muslim era came to an end. Although Catholicism is currently the official religion of Malta, freedom of conscience and religious expression are protected by the country's constitution. Malta's economy is largely dependent on tourism, and the nation markets itself as a popular vacation spot in the Mediterranean thanks to its milder weather than the rest of Europe, abundance of outdoor recreation opportunities, and culturally significant buildings and landmarks. The contemporary variant of the name Malta is derived from the Maltese language, albeit its etymology is unclear. The most popular theory claims that the Greek word meli, which means honey, is where the word Malta gets its origin. Because Malta produces honey unlike any other country in the world and is home to an endemic subspecies of bees, the Greeks gave the island the nickname Honey Sweet. According to pottery discovered by archaeologists at the Scorba temples, the Maltese islands were first populated about 5200 BC, mostly by Stone Age farmers or hunters who had traveled from Sicily, likely the Sicily, an Italian island. The earliest presence of people in Malta has been connected to the extinction of the dwarf hippos, huge swans, and dwarf elephants. Prehistoric farming communities from the early Neolithic period have been found in both open spaces and caverns, like Gardalam. The Armed Forces of Malta's AFM goals are to maintain a military organization with a primary focus on protecting the integrity of the islands in accordance with the defense roles established by the government in a timely and economical manner. This is accomplished through emphasizing the preservation of Malta's airspace and territorial seas. Valletta, Malta's capital, is a walled and fortified city built on a peninsula that protrudes into the Mediterranean Sea. It is one of the most beautiful capital cities in the world, with shaded, winding alleyways and majestic bastions offering breathtaking views. With a square area of around 0.8 square kilometers, it is also among the smallest capitals in Europe. Did you know that if you stayed in Malta for a year straight, you could go to a different church every single day? That's correct. Malta and its sister island of Gozo are home to an astonishing 365 churches. With one of the best climates in the world and more than 3,000 hours of sunlight annually, Malta is the ideal destination for a vacation in any month. One of the few places in the world where cars are driven on the left side of the road is this one. A holdover from its time under British administration. There are many more ways to get around if you lack the courage to travel on public transportation, including via bike, bus, and even boat. The entire island of Malta and all of its residents received the George Cross Medal when World War II ended in recognition of their valor in fending off the Axis invaders' relentless assaults. Roman Catholicism is the predominant religion of Malta, which has a very strong religious culture. The Bible claims that St. Paul was shipwrecked in Malta in 60 AD and converted its citizens. The nymph Callisto is said to have lived in a cave in Gozo that overlooks Ramla Bay and was described by Homer in his renowned Odyssey. The views from the cave are spectacular, despite the fact that it is a fairly typical-looking cave. Malta has some of the purest waters in the world, which are ideal for scuba diving. In and along its shorelines, you can explore reefs, sunken ships, and aircraft wrecks. The freestanding buildings and temples of Hagar Kim are among the best preserved in the entire globe. They have an astounding 5,000-year history. Malta is about 40 minutes from Tunisia and less than an hour from Italy. Any European city can be reached by plane in less than 3 hours, making it the ideal place for a fast break. Did you know that in 2011, at Chiswick High School, Malta set a record for the biggest number of attendees dressed as fictional characters? Sadly, Singapore stole their crown in 2014, but they still accomplished a lot. While you're there, make sure to try some of the local specialties like kini, sisk, and the legendary pastisi. They must be tried by everybody visiting Malta since they are a genuine treat. The main island of Malta, Valletta, and Gozo are the two biggest urban areas that make up Malta, according to Eurostat. The entire main island is covered by the main urban area, which has a population of about 400,000. There are 205,768 people living in the larger city of Valletta, which is the center of the urban area. The functional urban area and metropolitan region included the entire island and had 481,134 people according to Eurostat data from 2020. The United Nations estimates that around 95% of Malta's land area is urban, and that percentage is increasing annually. ESPON and EU Commission studies findings also state that the entire territory of Malta constitutes a single urban region. The International Monetary Fund classifies Malta and 32 other nations as having advanced economies, IMF. Up to 1800, Malta's main exports were cotton, tobacco, and products from its shipyards. As soon as they were under British rule, they started to rely on Malta Dockyard to supply the Royal Navy, particularly in 1854 during the Crimean War. Craftsmen and all military personnel profited from the military base. The Suez Canal's inauguration in 1869 greatly boosted Malta's economy because there was a huge rise in the amount of shipping that came into the port. The entrepot commerce was aided by ships refueling at Malta's docks, which benefited the island further. However, the economy started to deteriorate around the end of the 19th century, and by the 1940s, Malta was experiencing a severe economic crisis. The longer range of more recent merchant ships, which needed fewer refueling stops, was one contributing cause. Limestone, a favorable geographic location, and a productive labor force currently comprise Malta's main resources. Malta only generates around 20% of its food needs, has insufficient fresh water resources due to the summer drought, and no domestic energy sources other than the potential for solar energy from its abundant sunlight. The economy is reliant on foreign trade, acting as a hub for transshipment of freight, industry, particularly textiles and electronics, and travel. Malta has less access to biocapacity than the typical country worldwide. In contrast to the global average of 1.6 hectares per person, Malta has 0.6 global hectares of biocapacity per person on its land in 2016. Additionally, the ecological footprint of Malta's citizens was 5.8 world hectares of biocapacity consumed per person, creating a significant biocapacity deficit. The culture of Malta is a reflection of the various civilizations that have interacted with the Maltese islands over the centuries, from the Phoenicians to the British, as well as the neighboring Mediterranean civilizations and the civilizations of the countries that ruled Malta for a significant portion of its history before its independence in 1964. So there you have it, the top Malta facts to amuse you, your friends, and your family as you count down to what will undoubtedly be the vacation of a lifetime. That was for today. Thank you for staying with us. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel.